Hello everyone, welcome back to the Heffy Doodle channel. This is my first time here, so hi, my name is Steph Williams. I'm a paper crafter and card maker from Queensland, Australia, and today I have this adorable birthday shaker card to share with you. So let's jump right in and look at the products that I used today. So first up is the Bee Hoppy stamp set, and this is so cute. I just had to have it. I just have a thing for those little frogs and their skinny little legs. I'm also using just one piece of the builder pond today. My little pond scene is very small, so I didn't have much of a chance to use many of those elements. I'm also using the mini essentials dies. This set is fantastic. I love having a bunch of plain dies that I can go a little bit wild with my imagination, and today I'll be making a little Polaroid out of some of those shapes. And last I have the Carnival Star backdrop die, and here I have cut it out with some white cardstock. And I'm going to do the same with my little rectangle and square here with some white cardstock. I'm just going to line them up and hold them in place with some of my memo tape. And as you might be able to see already, this is looking like a little Polaroid picture. And here we have it cut out perfectly. Now moving on to stamping, and I honestly wanted to use every little frog in this set. They are just so cute, but I limited myself to just a few, and I did stamp this little jumping frog twice because I just thought his pose is just the cutest. And I could use him twice just on different angles to make him look a little different. I've also got a little log and some reeds to fill out this tiny little pond scene that I'll be doing in my Polaroid, along with some hats, presents, and of course a birthday cake. And while I was stamping, I thought I'd stamp part of my sentiment onto my Polaroid now, and I'm going with "Hope your birthday is," and a little bit later I'll be making the word Hoppy out of my alphabet dies. And while I had my ink and stamping platform out, I thought I'd add just a few little bugs around my sentiment as well. For my colouring today, I'm using a range of pastel Copic markers, kind of in a rainbow, because I wanted them to match this Pride sparkle mix. What I didn't realise about this mix was that it wasn't just sequins, there's actually a whole bunch of little gems and sparkles in there, which makes it even more pretty when I use it later in my shaker. My colouring techniques are incredibly simple. I am not a professional at colouring and things at all. All I use, for the most part, is 2 shades of a marker. I will go in with the lighter one first, add some shadow with the darker one, and then I simply blend them in. However, I didn't do this on my frogs today because those greens are so close together. Once I blend them, they kind of all just become one colour. For their little bellies, I have used one of my green Copics again, and I'm using the colourless blender just to add some liquid there so that that marker spreads around a little bit. And then I'm going to quickly colour in the rest of my images. There's a lot of green and brown for this little scene. And while that's totally fine, it wasn't really adding a lot of colour. So I do love that the little sparkle mix is going to add that rainbow. And I do pretty up my background quite a bit so that it's not plain white and that there is plenty of rainbow to tie everything together. Once my stamped images were done, I then coloured a white piece of cardstock that I had cut with the pond die. And I'm just going to colour that in very quickly, not very well. I don't really know what to do with colouring in big open spaces like that, but it's not the main feature. It's just a little bit of the background. So we're the only people who are going to notice that it might look a bit off. Once that's done, I then go over all of my stamped images with a white jelly roll. Today I'm using the size 1 and a 0.8. I feel like because I don't go into too much detail with my colouring, this adds some highlights and it just changes things up a little bit, gives the illusion of dimension. Now, I think this was my favourite part of this whole card. I had never used one of Heffy Doodle's mini die cut machines before now, and if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend them. Not only are they adorable, but they are so much fun to use. And they work exactly like your larger die cut machines, but this is perfect to have on my desk beside me instead of my big bulky machine, and it's perfect for cutting out my little stamped images. So now we're preparing these little pieces to be stuck into my little Polaroid. So I'm just going to be adding their party hats. I decided to do it on the backs of their heads and not the front because I felt like they were covering up their eyes and little details, but they look really cute on the back as well. And now I'm going to be prepping my Polaroid, and this is super simple. I love making Polaroid shaker cards. I feel like it captures a little scene in a little photo, and it's just a really cute way to make a shaker. So what I've done here is use some window sheet or some clear acetate, and I've stuck it on the back. I'm then going to be using some of Heffy Doodle's foam strips around the edges, and this will contain all of my sequins and the pretty sparkles, while also giving some dimension. And now we're going to be setting the inside of the scene. So what I've done here is trim down this little blue piece of cardstock that I've coloured in. I'm going to glue that down first, as that will be my little pond. I'm leaving the edges raised just slightly so that I can slip my little log and the reeds behind. And then I'm going to start positioning my little frogs. I don't want to speed this process up too much. I want you to be able to see all the bits and pieces coming together. So I'm going to leave you with just a little music while I do this. So now we're going to add a whole bunch more colour to this card. And what I've got here is a couple of my favourite Distress and Distress Oxide inks. And what I'm doing here is just adding them to my craft mat, one after the other in, I guess, just the rainbow order that I like. And I'm going to spray them down with some water. And I do go quite heavy with this. I want it to be totally saturated so that it easily covers the whole card. As you can see, I still did need to fix it up a little bit around the edges, but I am very excited for how that turned out. So while that's set aside to dry, I'm then going to finish assembling my little Polaroid shaker. So I've just added some anti-static powder on the inside so that my sparkle mix doesn't get stuck to either the acetate or to the foam strips around the edges. And here I'm going to scoop out some of those gorgeous sequins and place them straight in there, making sure that my sparkles are turned the right way up so that they look amazing when this thing is moving. Now, I just can't help myself when it comes to rainbows. I really go overboard with them. I just can't help it. I love colourful things. So what I've done here is I've used, again, all of my little Distress Oxide ink and Distress inks, and I've popped them on my mat. I'm watering them down quite heavily, and I'm just going to sprinkle them over my carnival star backdrop. These will dry a little bit lighter, so they're not going to be as vibrant as they are when they go on, but it will just keep tying that whole rainbow thing in together again. And for one final touch, I'm adding some of my favourite watercolour pigments. This is the white gold, and this is just going to make things more shiny, because apparently we don't have enough already. Once my backgrounds are dry, I can then add some glue between all of these stars, and then I'm going to layer them. And if you're wondering what I've used for my rainbow background, that is the largest die in the set of whimsically wonky rectangle dies. And the reason I've done that is because, like all clever crafty brands, Heffy Doodle have dies that are the same size. So this star backdrop fits perfectly over that. I didn't have to worry about measuring and cutting another piece of white cardstock by hand. It just slipped in there perfectly. And while I'm here, I'm going to add some double-sided tape to the backs of these so that it is ready to stick onto a card base. So how cute is that little Polaroid looking already? What I'm doing here is just working out exactly where I'm going to place it, and I'm going to stick this little froggy down in his place too, because he's going to be just a little bit behind it, or at least one of his legs is. So I want to have that lined up now. And once he's there, I'm going to pop a little present in his hand, and I thought on it for a moment with sticking it down with regular glue, but I decided to add a little foam square on the back just for a little more dimension. I'm just using a double-sided tape runner on the back of this Polaroid, and then I'm going to stick it into place. I just love how that background turned out. I love the rainbow behind the stars and all the little speckles. I feel like it turned out so cute. So here I have used the Moxie ABC die set, and what I've done is cut out the word Hoppy. I am a big believer that everyone should have an alphabet die set, or maybe multiple in different fonts. The more the better, because they are just so handy with taking up larger portions of a bigger background. Like I'm doing here, I really love taking one word out of a sentiment and making it bigger. It kind of emphasizes it. And it does really well with taking up that space down there. I wouldn't know what to do with that space had I not had those letters. Would I have filled it with more frogs? I'm really not sure, but I really do love the way that this looks. And if you've ever seen any of my other videos, you'll see that I do this quite a lot. And I tend to cut my alphabet dies out of black cardstock. I do love the contrast with the other colours, and it does just blend in and look like an extension of that sentiment. Before I stick this to my card base, I just wanted to add a few more sparkles, so I've grabbed some out of that Pride sparkle mix, both the sequins and the little gem. I'm just going to pop a few around the background of the card and a couple of those sparkles on the Polaroid. Now let's get this card stuck together so that I can give it a shake and we can see what it looks like while it's shaking. There we go, there is nothing like some slow motion shaker action. I love how this card turned out. I really hope you did too. If you did, then please don't forget to subscribe to the Heffy Doodle channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much for joining me today, and a huge thank you to Heffy Doodle for having me. I'll be back next month with another project. Bye for now.